We are rolling.
Awesome. So Mariane, tell me a little bit about yourself and how you came to Sedona and this whole magical world that you now live in, and what attracted you to work with people.
Well, from when I was a little girl, I could feel the pain inside of other people's bodies. And I didn't know what that was all about, but I could. And I would always be touching them or rubbing them and soothing the pain that I was feeling. And it was perfectly fine when I was little, except when I turned into a teenager, and it made my mother really nervous. And she made me stop touching people. And I suspected that she thought I was going to be pregnant from being so free with my hands on people's bodies. So it went dormant for a lot of years, and by the time I was 30, if I had went to the doctors, they would have diagnosed me with arthritis in my wrist because I couldn't even hold a glass in my hand. But fortunately for me, I met a group of people who could see your gifts. And they encouraged me to do my body work one day, just put me on a spot. And I thought, body work, what's that? That's something you do to cars.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, they're so sure I know how to do this, but I don't know how to do this. And the person was so insistent that I thought, okay. And the people volunteered their bodies. And I just got really quiet and I thought, I'll just listen. I bet that body knows what it needs. And I would hear direction. And it would say, hold the person here. And I would do that, and they would have an explosion of energy. I don't know how to even put it into words. A relief.
Did you feel it, or did they?
They did.
They did.
They did.
You didn't feel it.
What I feel when I scan a body is irregularities. I can feel it in the tissues. It doesn't feel, it feels funny under my hands. And I'll hold that till it shifts.
So you allow the body to just...
Yes, and it requires time. It's different than massage where you're doing a system. This isn't like that. It's the body's holding pattern that needs to be held. And emotion is underneath that. I am so sure that emotion is the main cause of illness today. We're a society that holds emotion in, and the body is our memory. And it's a matter of unlocking those painful memories that we put away somewhere, never to touch. And I'm okay with those kinds of emotions, and people can tell that. I'll go anywhere with a person to the darkest night of the soul.
Where do you think those emotions got stuck? Or when you say they were held in the body, do you have feedback from people about where that got stuck or how that got stuck?
What happens is they relive it. And I'll just tell you a personal story because I have permission to tell this story. My youngest son came for a visit on his birthday week, and for his present, I gave him a session. And within minutes, he was sobbing, "Why didn't you want me?" And he cried it through, and I thought, wow, here's personal evidence of a baby realizing that the mother doesn't want them. And the child personalizes that. I didn't even know him.
This is your son?
This is my son.
Do you remember having those thoughts?
Absolutely.
Do you remember having the thoughts when you were having,
I absolutely knew I did not want a baby.
Wow.
Okay? And I was already overwhelmed with my other son and my husband at the time. And the thought of having another baby was so overwhelming that I thought, what are you thinking, giving me another baby? I can't even handle the two babies I have now, the father and the baby. And there he was. And after he was all through, crying it through, I said to him, you know, it wasn't you I didn't want. It was a baby. And I didn't want a baby because of those reasons. But today, because of your bravery, you helped me undo what I did in ignorance. So I know that. So that's how it gets in there. A baby does feel what a mother is thinking and feeling. And a lot of times that creates a low esteem. They actually personalize that. And they think that they're not wanted. And it didn't matter that he was my favorite. It didn't matter when he got there that I adored him. The imprint was already in there, and I have living proof I was that mother.
So what happened afterwards?
Oh my gosh. He said to me, you know, you used to call me by a different name. And I said, really, what was that? And he said, Papa. And he said, you were so bad, you would never listen. And I couldn't do anything with you. So it also gave me in that moment a confirmation that we live other lives. And most of the time we're the same people coming back to undo what we did in ignorance.
Yeah.
And here I was undoing what I did in ignorance.
In this lifetime.
In this lifetime with this young man. Isn't that great?
That's amazing.
That's a great story.
So when you're working with people, you run into this a lot.
All the time.
I had the wonderful experience of working with you earlier this year.
Yes.
And we went on a hike.
Yes.
Which was an incredible experience for myself. And then when I was preparing for this interview, I went on your website. I know you from another friend.
Yes.
And so I went on your website, and I was in tears when I read the material that's on your website about creating loving relationships.
Yes.
You and your husband, Ron.
Yes.
I was really fascinated about how that came to be.
Okay. That's another great story too, because I was married for 35 years, and the last thing I ever thought I would ever want to do again was to get married. And Ron asked me, and I thought, why would we want to do that? That is like the worst thing on the planet to do. And I thought, gee, you have a really strong reaction about marriage, girl. You better check it out. So after 3 days, I realized that the first time I got married, I was pregnant. Other times in my life, I got married because it was part of the social thing, you know. And this time there was none of those catches. So we chose to do that. And the minute we made that decision, I realized that I was holding back. I thought I was loving Roland the best I could, but my fear of getting married again and making that commitment was holding back love. So when we saw that, we decided, wow, there's got to be other people like us too that are holding back, thinking that they're loving in the fullness of their ability. And that's how conscious loving relationship training started. And we took our own class to make sure that we could do it.
So you guys created a course
So we
together.
created a course together and tested it on ourselves. Like when we got together, we decided to live in the heart of love. And in the heart of love, shadow and light are accepted. And I challenged him when I first met him. I want to see the shadow that's reflecting this light. And I want to show you my shadow that's reflecting my light. So we tested each other for 5 years. Oh, will they be able to take this if he knew this about me? Would she take this? Would she be able to take this part of me if I showed that to him? And that's what we did. We discovered the things that tear relationships apart. And that's our fear of showing ourselves authentically.
Which is the darker side.
The darker side. The parts that we're not proud of.
Yeah.
You know?
And did you find in this process that healed that? Or
it
made
does.
that go away?
It actually does. No, it actually, like, if you can get it witnessed without killing each other, it heals both parties. And like when we allow each other to get really angry, we warn each other, like, you know, we're going to take a temper fit here. And it takes all those places in your life when you were ashamed or taught that you can't express anger, that anger's bad. You see? And the person witnesses it without getting blasted because they're making a conscious choice to witness it for you. So we teach that in the training. And we call it fair witness. You ask permission. The other person has the right to say, no, this isn't a good time. Give me a couple hours where I can actually be present for that emotion.
Because it brings up things in both people.
Always.
Okay.
Always.
Which is the very thing why
that's what you want to do. Yes. Yes.
I've read books before about relationships, about how people are drawn together to evolve or heal or grow. And
Right.
that's part of that process. But if you don't deal with that shadow side, it's really not authentic.
No.
And there's no possibility of you having a
Yeah.
real
What
living relationship.
what happens is when relationship to us is the highest initiation on the planet, because you constantly have a mirror showing you the parts in you that are still hurting. And it's so easy to point, well, they're doing it, but know that it's coming from inside you. Everything that you're experiencing in life that's outside of you is a reflection of what's really going on inside here. So couples, if they could actually help each other to heal deeper, provided you'll be authentic and stop performing yourself. Like, I got to tell you, for most of my life, I performed, Marianne.
Kind of like playing a role.
Yes, you play wife, you play mother, you play friend. You see? But do you ever stop to ask yourself the question, do you really want to be doing this? Is this really your heart's desire? It took me years to get to that place of, do I really want to do this? I could make anything work. I've done it all my life. But do I want to is the key. And for me, I had to break free. Freedom was what I wanted to live. And I could actually be free within a relationship.
How'd that feel?
It feels fabulous because you don't get pissy. You really don't get pissy.
So what happens if something does come up?
We create a space for that. We really we have found anyway, that it's so valuable to assist a person when you're stuck in a bubble of the past pain. It's the best way I could describe it. The person doesn't even know they're in a bubble. But you as the partner can actually see it. And you would assist the other person to break the bubble.
So you guys consciously
We consciously do that.
all the time.
Absolutely. Whenever it shows up, we don't have to look for it. Life gives you plenty of opportunities to see yourself.
Well,
if you're wise, you'll take the opportunity and heal.
That brings me to the next thing, is relationships. Not, relationships really are relationship. Everything is a relationship in our lives. Do people come to you that are single, that are looking for, quote unquote, the love of their life or their soulmate or something, that they come to you? Because how long have you been doing this work?
Oh, it's about 30 years.
30 years. So do you have any experiences that you could share about single people coming in?
Single people that come in, again, in order to have a loving relationship, you have to really like yourself. Okay? So if there's anything that you're ashamed of, like when I work with people, I want to work with their shame till the rub is gone. Because
The
once,
reaction, you mean?
yes, once the rub is gone, love just flows right to you.
Is that because it's then flowing out of you? Okay.
Because your shame is what stops you from loving.
Okay. That makes
If
perfect
there's
sense.
anything that you're ashamed of, you got a closed heart.
Wow.
One thing I just want to caution you against, if you're talking over her, we can't use that. So try to have more of a like, do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
How's it going so far?
Perfect, perfect. I'm going to change my framing just a bit.
Okay.
So you hold still. And you go ahead and continue to look at Michael.
Okay.
And okay.
So Marianne, excuse me. I want to talk a little bit about the exact like moment in time that we're in right now,
Okay.
like 2009, and talk about what you see in the world. You know, as we look around and see all of the crazy stuff people are seeing on TV, all these problems that people are constantly trying to solve, but really creating more problems. What do you find that your work ties into that, or how do you see yourself and the work that you do playing a role in healing that?
Well, the truth is it needs to be one person at a time. And I believe that anyone that I can help love themselves more, release the shame inside, that person is open-hearted. And that person's going to love another person. So it's one person at a time, starting with me. I mean, I live in therapy 24/7. It's not a bad word to me. It's what I need, and it enriches my life. So assisting another person to release their pain can only help the world because more love is being put out. I can't stop people from not loving, but I can show them how to love and what that's going to take. And it's going to take you redoing your inner world, cleaning it out. People say to me, does it ever end? And I said, it can't ever end because you're constantly taking in information. And you got to change that information when it's no longer of value. So it's constantly that, taking in, letting out. We were never meant to hold on to pain. Our bodies can't handle it. That's why it gets crippled and diseased. But what if we created a world where we actually made time to help people get rid of their shame?
And that it was okay.
Mm-hmm. That it isn't even real. That's the horror of it. Like, once you see it for what it really is.
Can you tell me more about that dynamic? Because I know people that are going to be watching this, it's going to bring that up for them. They're going to be feeling that when they watch it.
Okay.
So, like, taking somebody that doesn't have any idea about anything that we're talking about, but yet they're genuinely interested or attracted to it.
Yeah.
And that was an extraordinary experience, and it was just a moment of connection that, how did this person know this about me? You know, because before I opened up, before I started on this journey, we all walk around thinking that nobody knows anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that we keep it all
Right.
secret and hidden. As long as we put the face on, go out in the world and do what we thought we were told when we were younger, everything will be okay. But now, that dynamic is breaking down. I see it everywhere.
Yeah.
And the people that I talk to, you know,
Exactly.
that's why I created this show, is to begin a conversation. You know, ordinary people having extraordinary conversations. Something that does provide a real solution.
Mm-hmm.
So for you, the very first thing that we talked about was the shame.
Right.
So when somebody's watching this and having that come up them, I want to give them the freedom by watching this, just by watching this show, that they can accept that or
Mm-hmm.
be with that just for a minute. Can you guide us through that shift for them?
Before you do, if you can scoot your chair forward about 6 inches, just come straight forward.
More?
Yeah, come all the way up. There you go. Much better.
Okay.
And then you can scoot to the side just a bit. Sorry. Oh my God, that's so much better. Thank you. like I said, like I'm sitting here doing it, and I'm like, oh, we've already started, and it's like, it needs to be this. It needs to be this.
Do what you got. That's what the editing process is all about.
That's right.
All right, shift over a tiny bit, like come straight up and then over. There you go.
It's okay.
Yeah, she's a little bit in the back a little bit. Back away from, there you go. What I'm trying to do is line you up the same with our friend in the background.
Oh,
He's
good,
so
because
powerful.
he is. He's really
And
great.
you guys were kind of conflicting.
Okay.
And I want you to tell the story about that painting.
Okay.
Don't let me forget.
Well, I was going to tell a masturbation story. Actually, can you tell a masturbation
You
story?
can say anything.
All right.
Oh, now that you've shifted over, just shift over to that side of the chair. There you go. And then like sit maybe on that corner of the chair. Leave the chair where it is, but there you go. Now turn your body that way. That's it.
Oh, that's it. I feel that.
That's it. That's it. Okay. And talk about masturbation.
Well, I am going to do that story because this was one of my biggest shames. And it's not even clear whether I told my mother or she caught me. But her reaction to my mother, somehow my mother found out I masturbated. And she takes me to a physician, a doctor, a medical doctor. And what I get from him, and I know he didn't say these words, but what I get is, little girl, you keep doing that, you're going to break your parts. So I thought, gee, there must be something wrong with him, was my first thought. But they were so insistent that I was doing something horrible. I started to get really ashamed about masturbating. It never stopped me from doing it. It just laid a layer of shame on me. And it was one of my biggest, darkest secrets. Till 25 years later, I'm talking to a girlfriend and we decide to tell secrets. And I tell her the secret and she starts laughing at me. And she says to me, I hate to break it to you, but most people masturbate. I said, why didn't somebody tell me? But again, that was the shame. And when I was young, I was reading like all the books around sex, and I have my first sexual experience, and it's nothing like the books. I decided that the doctor was right. So now I have broken parts. But it just shows you at least the innocence in me. And I know that there's a lot of people that suffer from sexual shame. And they live lives that aren't full because of it. Myself included, it took years to undo that shameful part of me and accept the fabulous woman that I am today. You see?
Absolutely.
So, what I'm trying to say is telling her that secret freed me. But holding it in was like having a blackmailer on my back. And it was taking away my esteem. No matter what I accomplished, I didn't think that I was as fabulous as I know I am today. That's the difference.
What are your thoughts about sexuality, since we're on the subject, about sexuality and energy? And I've been reading a lot about sexuality and the power of manifestation, and that
it's so misunderstood. So misunderstood. To me, being a woman is a vessel to the divine. I didn't always know that. And that's what I like to teach women, that a woman is the vessel to divine. She is not the garbage disposal, where lots of women play the part of a garbage disposal.
What do you mean by that?
Having sex because they think they have to, because you're a wife, because you're a girlfriend, because you kissed enough and now you have to give sex. Okay, that's what I mean by that. And having sex when it isn't your heart's desire in the moment. And what I would like to say to men too is that if you allow a woman to love you, there doesn't have to be power over sex and have sex as a weapon to get what you want or don't want. And the other piece that I have to say, and again, I'm going to just say it, I feel that how do I put this into words too? How do you know that the love of your life isn't your own sex? And maybe we need to get rid of that whole taboo around men and women and women and men and women.
Yeah, like where did that come from?
Where did that come from? And is it real? Is it true? And why does it have to be so? Because it separates us from each other. You know, that never sat with me as right. That the love of a man for a man and a woman for a woman is just as rich as a man and woman's relationship. And to stop judging it just because it doesn't fit your box.
As long as you're happy, who cares about what's going on?
That's the whole
else?
point.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. So it's part of something, too, that I want to honor, because to me, loving is what's important. And there's a lot of men and women relationships that are so valuable. And it bothers me that we can't create a space for that to happen.
As a whole.
As a whole, yeah. Yeah, as a whole. That bothers me. So I'm going to say that today.
I'm so happy that you said that today.
Well, it's important to me. It doesn't make sense. There's so many things that we follow that don't make sense.
And there's real power in asking questions. Not
Yes.
that you're stating an opinion, because I don't get that. I get you're just asking a question.
I'm asking a question.
Yeah.
How could that be wrong when two people love each other?
How could love be wrong?
How could love be wrong? It's the most healing energy on the planet.
It's who we are.
Mm-hmm. And I got to tell you, under that disguise of love, I've been in places that were not loving that said it was love. And so I'm real sensitive to what's loving and what isn't. What's difficult is trying to make abuse loving.
Mm-hmm. Well, the statistic now is like 78% of all marriages end in divorce.
Yes, so why is that?
And most people that are in marriages are not having sex inside of them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Marianne needs to say those things.
Oh.
I have to
No,
say.
that's awesome. But you need to prompt her to.
Okay.
We can't use that.
You can't use that one.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I get caught in the moment. So yeah, say that.
Say that. Oh, shoot. I can't believe I'm saying what I'm saying.
I love it. Spirit's like
Well-
guiding it.
Okay, so you're going to ask me a question? All right.
I forgot what I said.
I want to hear what she has to say about like 78% of marriages
Yeah.
ending where people aren't having sex. It's
Yeah,
like-
what do you think about the
I mean,
divorce rate?
But you have to tell us that because
Yeah.
Okay.
you have to set it up.
Okay. All right.
So I'll set it up. So when we look in, the United States, I don't know, how do I set
Just,
that up with
how
that?
about this? Relationships aren't working right now. They're not.
A lot of relationships are not working right. Then I'll have to say yes.
Yeah.
Put your hair in front of. Hover forward. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Her hair's too free to hide it.
We got to have this hair all over the place. Okay.
So do couples come to you that are, have been thinking about divorce.
Right. Yeah, they do. And we're not interested in saving marriages. What I'm interested in is what is the truth within that relationship. Okay? Are you manipulating each other because of the pain inside of you? And our job is to help them get to the pain inside of them that's allowing them not to be true to themselves. So you have to break all the illusions around marriage, what a woman's role is, what a man's role is. But what is the truth? Are they really together? And if they're not, why not? So you got to examine your marriage. You got to examine your relationship. If you're wanting out of your relationship and you're not saying anything, two people are hurting. You're better off saying, I want out of this relationship and see what happens. See, I attempt to teach people that start relationships to be sure that they tell the truth in every moment. And that's not easy because we've been trained to lie.
Where did that come from?
In my case, it came from childhood. You know, children are really on. They can tell whether a parent can tolerate something or not. And if they perceive that a parent can't tolerate it, they're only going to tell part of the truth.
Like they kind of hide behind it.
Yes, you
Okay.
hide behind it. And that's what you take into the relationship. Now, what if you're a woman who doesn't like to cook, doesn't like to clean, doesn't like to do any housework? You want to be a career woman. That needs to come up front. You know, if you expect me to do all these things in our marriage, it's not what I'm able to do. I can't give you that. This is what I am able to give you. Blah, 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 and blah.
It sounds like what you're saying is these conversations need to happen before they get
Exactly.
married.
Exactly. I always tease, but I think it's a great idea, is to have a questionnaire. You know, like, what do you want from me? Why are you pursuing me? What is it that you really want? And then that other person, if this person's honest, they could tell that they are for them or they're not for them. So if you would tell the truth right off, you'd eliminate a lot of your pain.
And if you didn't have pain in your life, what would you have?
Well, you know, sometimes people love pain, and I know that to be true too. That some people feed on pain.
Is there ever a time that they get tired of it? So what I'm hearing you say is that they want to be ready. They have to be ready.
They have to be ready, Michael. I don't think life presents you with those challenges. But again, some people really feed on pain.
So somebody that's watching this, which brings you to my next question, is about the value of what you provide.
Right.
So if someone's watching this and they know intuitively that it's not working, there's something off,
Right.
what's some steps that they can take at home to kind of assess to get them on the path?
Okay. You can tell by the amount of joy you're experiencing. If you're not experiencing in your life joyful, you're in trouble.
And what's the number one thing that they need to do? Like, what's the very first
They need to give me a
step?
call.
Give
me a call.
Give you a call.
Give me a call.
Marianne, if you could just restate, like when he says, "What's the very first thing you say?" The very first thing is, or
Okay.
there's not enough. You're right. There's not enough, and then go on your point. Just
Okay.
restate whatever he's saying.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. I forgot what I said.
What's the first thing they
Yeah,
need
what's
to
the
do?
very, so they're watching this interview.
And then pull her hair forward.
They're watching this interview. Some things are starting to open up for them.
Right.
They're starting to feel, oh, this sounds really familiar. At home, I want people to have access to action, to take a step, to shift out of it.
Okay. The first step is to recognize that you're not happy,
Okay.
that there isn't any joy in your life.
And then once they've got that
Once you got
realization-
that, then you can give a person like me a call. Because I can hear, I'm an acute listener, and I can hear your pain. I could feel it when I talk to you. And you also have to see if you're willing to let that pain go. Are you really willing to let it go? Or do you enjoy suffering? And if you do, that's okay too. You can be sure that you'll get what you want, a life full of suffering. But if you don't want suffering, there's another way. There's joy in every moment. if you look for it. And you got to find it in here. If it's not in here, you're pissed off about something. That's just a fact. You're pissed off about something.
If someone's pissed off about something, what are they going to get? Like, what is their...
You're going to feel depressed. Like a lot of people call it depression, but it's really anger.
Really?
Yeah. Depression is anger. Anger is a forceful energy that's necessary. It tells you when something's wrong.
So
it's not something to manage. It's something to release.
Oh. So people think, well, I know in my life, when I'm angry, I just don't want to be angry.
Right. Except you need to be angry. When you're angry, you need to be angry, and you need to be able to express it safely. You don't want to kill anybody with it. You just want to release it safely.
And how will we do that?
You would have to have somebody like me to help you release it thoroughly. And it gets witnessed. And when you do that, you can feel your whole spine open up and air going through your body. It's so cleansing when you allow your anger to be expressed safely. It's so powerful, so profound.
What happens after it's expressed?
It's gone.
It just disappears?
It disappears. It absolutely disappears.
And is that when you experience joy? Or is there something in between it?
Well, what I'm telling, my experience is that it stops your joy.
Okay.
Because it's a powerful emotion. Emotions need to move. The mistake we make is keeping them inside. They were never meant to be inside.
Where are they meant to be?
They need to be expressed. And they're signals. They're signals that something is out of balance.
So it's like your body talking to you?
Mm-hmm. And to listen to it.
Beautiful.
Listen to it. Most bodies that I meet firsthand are numb. They're numb. There's no movement in the body.
Kind of frozen?
Mm-hmm. Frozen. There's fight, and there's flight, and there's freeze. And old emotion, like when I go over my hand, it feels like ice. When I go over a body that holds old emotion. And you have to hold it so that it starts to melt. And then the person can bring that emotion forward and bring themselves to current time, because they're stuck in an old place. Do you see? Mm-hmm. So it's bringing that forward that brings them to freedom, and freedom creates joy.
So how does that feel for you, getting to do this work for people and seeing them open up?
It not only helps them, it heals me too, because every time I go deeper inside me, a whole different crowd of folks come that want to go deeper too. So your practitioner needs to do their own emotional work as well, whoever is working with you. If they're afraid, if they haven't done their own, they're going to stop you from going as deep as you could go.
So that's new for me. Like, mm-hmm. So you go through the work with them.
Absolutely.
Not you doing it to them. You're
absolutely.
Like,
I go with them. And sometimes, sometimes they're so closed in their throat they can't even make the sounds, and I'll make screams come out of my body because I could hear their silent screams. I could hear them.
That's fascinating.
And then I could vocalize them till they can do it for themselves at another time, another place. But like that's where it's stuck, like right here. Did you ever notice, like right before you start?
When you touch like that, I can't hear. Like the mic is right there.
Oh.
Yeah. Do that again. Just turn it.
I need these things.
I'm sorry.
We're gonna
Sorry to take you out of it.
Okay, what was I saying?
The throat.
The throat. Did you ever notice when you start to cry, the first sensation is in your throat before your eyes start to leak?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
I get a lump in
You
my
get
throat.
like a little lump, and then it starts to work up through the ears and hits the back, not ears, but like the side of your face and hit the back of your eyes. And then you start to cry. So it's about things that you haven't spoke out loud. And I can tell you that the silent screams are so loud. And we all have them. I don't think there's a person on this planet that doesn't have that kind of pain in their system. It's really powerful to witness it. One time I was working with a group, and we were working on a young woman, and she had this pain in her center here that would never go away. And we were working with her outside, and my helpers were helping, and then it hit me. This happened to her so early she didn't even have words, because we were trying to encourage her to scream. And there were buzzards flying overhead. That's how serious this was. And I said to them, stop, stop. And I just sat at her head, and I let that energy come through me till I was able to vocalize the screams. And in that scream, she said that it just broke that lock in her chest. And the pain never came back, and it took her about a year to do her own screaming.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, those kinds of things to me are very profound. And I know that we're stuck in our emotions. That's what's holding us back. Our emotion, and particularly shame and guilt. They're the heaviest, the most destructive emotion you can carry. And if you can share that with someone, look them eye to eye and tell your secret, it unlocks it. A lot of times we're afraid if we tell the secret, somebody's going to take advantage of us. But it's the other way around. You're constantly being blackmailed by your own mind.
The shadow part?
The mind.
The mind?
The mind that's judging what you're ashamed of or what you're feeling guilty about. And the longer it's inside, it's like having poisoned food inside of you. That's what it's like. Because that's what it feels like when I'm working on the body, too. I can feel like gunk. It feels like thick substance running through the system. You know, you can touch, I mean, I can. My hands can really touch it. I have really big hands for a little person. And I was meant to do body work with these hands because they're big. They can scan a whole body. And you know, it's an ordinary gift. Ordinary people have this gift.
Well, it's so great.
You know, I was born with that. It's a gift from the Creator.
I appreciate you sharing what you've shared today with me. I know it's going to make a difference for a lot of people.
I hope so.
But there's one thing I want to ask you before we complete for today, is that what do you feel that's coming up next for you? Do you feel like something's emerging for you? Do you have a sense of it?
What I sense is that more and more people will seek me out because I really am good at what I do. And we both win. It's a win-win because everyone I help is part of my story. People that have the worst esteem find me. And they're the most successful people on the planet. So it doesn't matter if you're successful. If you don't think well of yourself in here, you can't even believe what you're getting. Like you don't even get how fabulous you are. I'm like looking at them when they're describing them, and I see this gorgeous being.
And they can't see
and
it.
They can't see it. You see, like we're God. We are God. We're sparks of God. That's who we are. We are not what we identified with. We're not our past. And I don't care what you did in your past. You're redeemable. Because it's not who you are. It's a byproduct of where you were.
Can you say that one more time?
No, it's only one time.
We got it on tape, so that was good.
No! I can't do that.
I want to ask her to talk about what she thinks is the worst emotion. She already said it. We're going to revisit it. But what's the most dangerous emotion? Where does it come from?
Okay. You're going to ask me that?
What's the most dangerous emotion?
The most dangerous emotion is shame and guilt. They're the most destructive.
Okay.
Most
She's
destructive.
looking at me. I'm trying
Oh.
to say, oh,
Okay.
you can ask that again.
All right.
What's the most destructive emotion that you run across?
The most destructive emotion I run across is guilt and shame.
Why?
Because they're holding your spirit down. And judgment on top of that. So you judge yourself with shame and guilt. Somebody, just a funny story, a young girl who's a grown woman now, when she was a kid, she's in a pool and somebody made fun of her feet. And she would never let anybody see her feet. And one day I said to her, "Can I please see your feet?" And she said, "Oh, I can't show you the feet." I said, "Trust me, let me see your feet." And she finally took them out, and there was nothing wrong with her feet. They were absolutely beautiful, but she could not see them because of that place where she was made fun of her feet. That's how deep that goes. So all her life she's got to wear shoes and wouldn't even show her husband that she loves her feet.
What happened?
Well, she wears sandals now. She does. She wears sandals now. But that's how it locks, like a lie. Shame is a lie.
Shame is a lie.
Yes, it is. You know, my mother used to say to me, "Nice girls don't feel like me," which put me in a bind because I still had the feeling. And I thought, okay, Mom wouldn't lie to me. I guess I'm not very nice because the feelings were still there. And that's what we do to children. Be nice. Don't be real. Be nice. And I want to challenge people to be real.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Before a person can find love and happy, like in a relationship, they need to find. She's already mentioned. Now we're tight, so I know.
Say that again.
Before a person can find a relationship and be happy, they have to find what?
So before a person can find a relationship and really be happy, what'd you say?
She's going to tell us.
Before a person...
Yeah, before a person can really find love.
Before you can find love, you'd have to search inside for it. And the challenge there is to get rid of anything that isn't loving, particularly your own judgments of yourself. I mean, I come across the most beautiful women who don't even see their beauty, and beautiful men that don't see their beauty. And I'm looking at them right in front of me, and they're simply gorgeous, but they're telling me about this is not right and that's not right. You know, and that's the society that we're in. We're so not comfortable in our own skin. So again, in order to find love, you've got to get comfortable with your own skin. Stop searching outside. Search inside and get rid of the garbage that's on top of your ability to love.
That's so funny that you said that, because I recently had a conversation with somebody about this, and they didn't know how to let go of it.
Okay.
They just didn't know how to let go of it. They recognized it. We had a conversation just like what you said, and they just didn't know how to let go of it.
My humble opinion is you have to go through the body to get there.
Go through the body to get there.
Yes. Yeah. The body, I don't know how people survive without being touched. I just don't get it. Like, I need to be touched. And I need to touch. And that exchange, hands on. Do you know, like when you were a kid and you had a boo-boo, somebody came and hugged you? how that made a difference. Well, we're all walking around with boo-boos that haven't been kissed, held, and touched. So how the heck can we heal?
I just had a aha moment. Because a lot of times in my coaching practice, I try to deal with it only with the mind.
Yeah, but
and that's a very limited access.
it's very limited because the mind lies.
Wow.
The thought process are a lot of lies, and we keep running them over till somebody says to you, how do you know that's true? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's the other part of the work, when something comes up and the person says, like, I really don't have any value. And I'll say to them, well, how do you know that that's true? Give me the evidence that that's true. And they can't come up with the evidence because it isn't true about them. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's what the one-on-one, or whether you do it in a group, you know, the group can really help a lot. But when it comes to the shame and guilt, that needs a one-on-one, because it's the revelation of it that's so terrifying. But once it's out, the blackmailer's off your back.
Yeah. What's the number one cause of breakups?
Lies.
Lies?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Lying.
both of them, or just one person?
It's usually both.
Both of them. It's a mutual conspiracy.
The wall's up. Yeah, it's lies.
Where does that happen? Like some examples of where somebody might be lying in a relationship.
You're in the frame. Just sit back. There you go.
Let's see. Okay. All right. A couple comes together and they say, how do you see the sleeping arrangements? And they say, oh, I just love sleeping with you. When they really don't, and they want to sleep by themselves. But they're afraid if they say, I want to sleep by myself, the person won't be in relationship. That's one. Okay? We're going to go see the family. We're going to go see your family, and the other person doesn't want to go, but they go anyway. That's a killer. That kills the relationship. Doing anything that your heart isn't in is a lie.
So if that's a real situation that a lot of people face, and especially around the holidays. What do you reckon? What's the key to unlock?
The key is to tell the truth.
And just not go.
And not go.
I just feel the aftermath.
Okay, so go ahead. See what stops people from telling the truth?
Yeah. And if their partner wasn't okay with that,
then they have something to work with. Well, let's talk about this. Do you really enjoy going to see your family? Or are you going because it's your duty? Oh, I'm going because it's my duty. Well, what if we choose not to go at all? Either one of us. Can you live with not doing it and see what happens?
That feels like freedom.
That's what it's all about. So, you know, lots of times in, in relationships we take hostages. And then you become the hostage because you're having to do things that your heart isn't in it.
And if you did it for your husband, then they have to do it for you, and so on and so on.
And that's the whole thing that breaks, to me, that's what breaks up a relationship, is your inability to tell the truth of the moment.
Wow.
We had Rowan and I had a situation where we're planning to go someplace with these people, and we're all like happy about it, and I go and I take my shower, I get all dressed up, And then it hits me. I don't want to go. And I mean, it took everything in me. I had to go in and I had to say to him, you know, Raul, I went through all this trouble to get ready, but right now I don't want to be around those people. There's nothing wrong with them, but I don't want to be around them. So he said something like, well, you know, I told them they'll be waiting for us. He said, I'll just drive up and tell them, and then I'll come right back. So that's how he took care of it. Because he realized, too, he didn't really want to do it.
So your authenticity opened up
exactly.
his authenticity.
Yes, exactly.
So what'd you guys do that night?
Oh, we did each other. It's a very lovely evening.
That's good. Can you think of anything else, Mike, that you want to recapture?
I really want to get into this love and shame and getting past that. How can someone learn to love themselves? Really.
Well, you can't love yourself. You cannot love yourself when you have shame because you're holding back. Do you see?
Mm-hmm.
So what if you write down on a piece of paper everything that you're ashamed of? And then ask yourself, are you really ashamed of it? Or is it just something you think you're ashamed of?
Wow. That's good.
Yeah. I only do things that work,
That's
Michael.
really good.
I want to hear something about you can't love someone else until. Say that as that children.
You can't love someone else until.
You can't love someone else until you love yourself. How do you know you love yourself? You know you love yourself when you put yourself first. So like, I mean, just simple things. You have to go to the bathroom, but you wait an hour. That's not loving yourself. You go to the bathroom first, and then you go do the next thing. I mean, this is just a simple thing. You're hungry, but you're too proud to ask for something to eat, so you go without eating. That is not loving yourself. You stop and you have something to eat. That's loving yourself. These are just simple things. And you start with the simple things, because I always ask people that question, what is the evidence that you love yourself? That's the evidence. You take care of every need that you have. And you recognize that a need is a necessity. You don't have to get it from another person. You're very capable of giving it to yourself.
I can just hear people watching this connected to all of the things that they think they have to do because of how other people are going to respond to them.
Yeah. You got to learn how to be uncomfortable in your skin. You already are uncomfortable in your skin. But how's about making it work for you? You liked that one, didn't you?
I love that.
We're running out of tape.
That's a delicious one, Mike. All right.
See what I picked him.
I'm glad you picked him. Okay.
Pull your hair forward.
Oh,
I love that hair.
she likes that hair. Okay.
And put the one back. That's too much hair.
Which one?
That. No, the other one. Okay, that's fine. Okay.
All right.
Ask her that.
So the question is, people in relationships about picking their partners.
Picking their partners.
And picking their partners, maybe not necessarily based on that's the partner they want to be with, but they're for some image reason or based on what other people might think of them. Or being connected to someone and they might not be, the ideal.
Don't give her too much. Don't give her too much.
So what I'm hearing you saying is that they choose a partner, but there's a part of them that's ashamed that it's their partner. Mm-hmm. So they're needing to go inside and checking the shame. What is it about that person am I ashamed of? And write on that and list how that reflects them. Does that make sense? That how that reflects their inner world.
What they're ashamed of?
Mm-hmm. In the other person.
In the other person.
That they're afraid that their friends may make fun of.
Got
Okay? So the person who's experiencing the shame has to look inside for what that's about. Because that's a mirror for them, to get to see them, their selves.
Exactly.
And once they do that, it'll take the shame off of them liking this person, but don't think their friends would accept them.
On the other side of that, liking somebody who makes people jealous that they don't like.
So,
On the other side of that, somebody, when they pick someone just to make people jealous.
Okay. Oh, that's a beauty.
And
Okay.
just go into that.
yeah.
Go ahead.
So picking someone that you know will make someone else jealous that's in your circle of friends.
Right.
Why do we do that?
Why do we do that?
That's a simple one. Because that makes us feel better about ourselves. So it's saying, I don't feel good enough about myself. I need this person to dangle so they'll think I'm a big deal. But never mind, they don't really like that person. They just like the feeling of being a big guy.
And then she has to set it up because we don't know what that's about.
Okay.
Sometimes people pick partners.
Sometimes people pick partners.
Sometimes people pick partners because they have little worth. And they pick somebody that they think, and again, it's a thought, that their friends will be jealous of them having.
Why do they do that?
There's a lot of reasons why people do things like that. One of the reasons is, again, they don't feel that great about themselves. That's why. They don't get how fabulous they already are. And they think they need something outside themselves to make them good. It's like people who have plastic surgery all the time.